Right, welcome to the first video on this brand new channel of mine. I'm so looking forward to this, so excited to be getting into this. Today we're going to be doing my album rankings for the mighty Nile. Well, they're Nile, not the mighty Nile, but they are a band called Nile who I find mighty. You get where I'm coming from. The Egyptian death metal, they're not Egyptian death metalers, they're death metalers who do Egypt stuff. I'm getting ahead of myself. The Nile discography is incredibly consistent. They are a remarkably good band throughout all the albums. So I will say the difference between S tier and D tier is nowhere near as wide as it is with a lot of other bands. Just to bear that in mind. But let's go through the tiers now. So at the top, the very top, we have Scarablicious. I know, I'm not proud of it either. Next we have At the Gates of Awesome. Next up, we have Black Seeds of Brilliant, though slightly less awesome. Next is Catacombs of Cool, though yet another step down. And finally, we have Denialed. As disappointed as you may be, it's nothing compared to how I feel about myself. Anyway, we've rambled on enough. Let's get on with this. So, starting out, amongst the Catacombs of Nephron-Ka. Now, this is actually based on a H.P. Lovecraft story called The Outsider, or at least elements of it, as I think Nephron-Ka is actually mentioned in The Outsider. Now, throughout their discography, we get elements of Egyptian mythology, and there's plenty of H.P. Lovecraft as well. So I always knew I was going to love this band. This is great. So, yeah. First album released on April 28th, 1998 via Relapse Records. And yes, the band lineup for this is Carl Sanders on guitar and vocals, Chief Spires on bass and vocals, and Pete Hamura on drums and vocals. Straight out, I absolutely love this album. This is a fantastic album. Very atmospheric, immediately sets them out from the pack. As I said already, you've got the ancient Egyptian themes along with the H.P. Lovecraft, although that's not uncommon in death metal. Now, this is nowhere near as technical as some of their later stuff. This is also their shortest album by far. It runs, I think it's just over half an hour that this one comes in. But I actually really enjoy this album. Immediately, this just sets them... It's something different to a lot of regular death metal. Very atmospheric. The production is not where it needs to be. The guitar tone is just in your face. You can't really hear a lot of the nuances, but I like it. I really do enjoy it. I really do enjoy this album, and I think if ever you're going to forgive a poor production, it's going to be on the first album. So yeah, standouts, Bara Adesanu. Me mispronouncing stuff is going to be a constant through this video, I think. Yeah, stood out immediately with its hardcore influences, and some of the sections had some really nice kind of meaty, sort of pit-inducing breakdown parts in this. Serpent-headed mask, frantic as all hell, but it's got this creepy sort of summoning section, very atmospheric. Ramesses, Bringer of War, starts with this very Gustav Holst influenced intro before going into this great chugging pattern. Stones of Sorrow, very atmospheric. Dirach Kriegli di Azich, really cool. Got this kind of almost sounds like a summoning going on of these Mesopotamian gods, and there's actually a reference to Pazuzu from The Exorcist, who is of course based on an Egyptian deity. The Howling of the Djinn, real standout. You can also visualise the frenetic scene that's going on. And Beneath the Internal Oceans of Sand starts with this beautiful acoustic section before going all evil on us to the end of the album perfectly. Yeah, I thought this was a really great start to their discography, and for me this goes, if I can get it, this goes At the Gates of Awesome. There's a part of me that wants to put this in Scarablicious, because I genuinely believe this is I return to this album a lot. It's fantastic, but we're going to put that At the Gates of Awesome. Next up, we have Black Seeds of Vengeance, which was released September 5th, 2000, again via Relapse Records. And this is the first album where we get Dallas Tola Wade on guitar and vocals. He'll be with the band for a number of years after this. Now, we have an immediate step up in the technicality that's going on in regards to the playing. The length, I think this one's around 40 minutes, so starting to go up. The production is still pretty poor on this one. Carl Sanders himself has actually said that he's actually not a fan of the production of this one. But Black Seeds of Vengeance, total banger to get things started. Defining the Gates of Ishtar shows a progression in the more technical elements of the band. The Black Flame starts with a much more ominous, plodding intro before exploding into the remainder of the songs. Really well done. Libation unto the shades who lurk in the shadows of the temple of Anu. It's this beautiful acoustic piece, you know, that gives a bit of respite there. The War God. I'm not sure what I can say on YouTube anymore in regards to sort of self-joy, but yeah, an absolute banger, which I'm not convinced that's the the best way to phrase that. As is Multitude of Foes, and this is just a great album from solid to finish. This one I will also put in A tier. I'll actually put this ahead. Oh, hang on, if I can do that, I'll put that ahead of Catacombs. It is a step up in the songwriting, but again, the production does bring it down a little. In Their Darkened Shrines, released August 20th, 2002. Again, Relapse Records. The first things that's really stands out, the mix is notably improved. You can hear a lot more of what's going on, which is essential for a band like Nile. They're so technical, you really need to be able to hear those nuances that's going on with it. The lineup for this is once again Carl Sanders. We've got Dallas returning for the second time, and we've got Tony Loreno on drums. Let's go straight into it. The Blessed Dead kicks things off. Just knocks it out of the park. Execration text is 2 minutes 46 seconds of all-out fury. Sarcophagus gives us a bit more of a sludgy feel. Kefitu Asabuchio, butchered that. Got some crazy lead playing and riffing throughout. Unas Slayer of the Gods is epic. The album nearly 12 minutes in length. That's a total banger. Churning the Maelstrom, 3 minutes of just blatant intensity. I Whisper in the Ear of the Dead has more mid-paced chugging. Some great atmospheric passages. Wind of Horus has frenetic instrumentation throughout. And then we've got the end track, which is actually on the digital versions is split into four tracks. I can't remember how long it is overall. I think it's around 18 minutes, something like that. But yeah, the actual title track itself, In Their Darkened Shrines, is split into 4 pieces. Truly epic. This one is absolutely incredible from start to finish, and this for me goes in Scarablicious. Fantastic album. Next up we have Annihilation of the Wicked. This was released May 23rd, 2005, and I think this is their last with Relapse Records. This features again Carl Dallas as well as George Callias on drums, who is with the band from here on out. A beast of a guitar player. Is that actually focused on me? I think it keeps focusing on my Johnny Cash. It's a weird thing to say. We also got John Visano on bass and vocals. Dusk falls upon the Temple of the Serpent on the Mount of Sunrise, an instrumental intro that lulls us in with Eastern chord progressions before slamming into the next track, Cast Down the Heretic, which is just another banger of a track. Once again, there's already a marked improvement in the musical performances. The production is on point again. Can hear everything, absolutely essential. Sacrifice unto Sebek kicks you in the testes, which is maybe what the song is meant to make you feel, give you some empathy towards the sacrificial one. Usa Matt Ray is a 9-minute epic. Starts with another Eastern acoustic piece before going into some sludgy riffs backed by blast beats. Really love this one. The Burning Pits of the Duat just goes at breakneck speed the entire time. Chapter of obeisance before giving breath to the inert one in the presence of the crescent-shaped horns. It's as awesome as a song named that should be. Lash to the Slave Stick banger. Spawn of the Menti is essentially a demon being spawned. Crazy. Annihilation of the Wicked. Another epic with some great galloping guitars and squeals. Von Uchebrechenschulten closes the album with 10 minutes. I'm not yeah. I enjoyed this album immensely as well. There's a lot of slower, dirgier riffs on offer with that. And I quite often find the heavier stuff with a lot of bands is often when you go into the sludgier, slower stuff. So this one is also going in S tier. I'm going to put it behind In Their Darkened Shrines, but they're kind of neck and neck, really. I think they're both pretty damn good. Next up we have Ithyphallic, which was released on July 17th, 2007, and this is their first to be released via Nuclear Blast Records. And once again we have Carl, Dallas and George, minus John Visano. I think Dallas took care of bass duties on this, and I think they had bass players come in to sort of for the touring cycle. Now, the first thing that stands out on this, there's a lot of great songs on this. When you're doing these album rankings, especially for bands like Nile, you're kind of looking for I'm kind of nitpicking a bit at this point. Now, the production is definitely a weak point on this. The drums in particular sound very weak on this album. The songwriting's great, but you've got to nitpick when you can. But let's go through it. What can be safely written sets things off. 8-minute runtime, frenetic riffs along with slower, sludgier moments and some Slayer-esque dive bombing. As he creates, so he destroys. Decent enough. Ithyphallic has a very morbid angel, god of emptiness vibe going on with it, I thought, on the outro. Papyrus containing. I think I must have missed off. I think that's another one of those incredibly long titles that I've missed off there. But Papyrus containing, whatever the rest of the track is another. It's a great 3-minute track that's takes longer to say. It took longer to me explain it than to actually go through the song. The Essential Salts has a hypnotic lead section that I really enjoyed, and Even the Gods Must Die is the album's epic and one of their best. That yeah, as much as I love the fast-paced stuff, I really do enjoy the slower, dirtier stuff that a lot of bands do, to be honest. Yeah, I'm going into nitpicking territory on this. There's a lot of really good stuff on here. The production does bring it down, and it does get a little samey at points, which is something that these next couple of albums all kind of have in common. That's something that I've heard a lot of people referencing to. So Ithyphallic will go into Catacombs of Cool, though yet another step down. Next up, we have Those Whom the Gods Detest, released on November 3rd, 2009. Again on Nuclear Blast. This is the same lineup as before. The mix is much more improved on this album from the previous one. Kafir, the opening track, sets things off nicely with a very Cannibal Corpse inspired riff, some nice slow and nasty riffs amongst a faster tempo, stuff that I really enjoy. You can really hear the pick digging into the strings on this one, really hear that attack into the instruments. It's really, really great. We get this really enjoyable native chanting going on as well, very atmospheric. Utterances of the Crawling Dead. Love the main riff on this one. Those Whom the Gods Detest itself, the title track. Real slow, atmospheric start that I liked. Fourth Arrow of Dagon. I was always going to enjoy this. Dagon is one of my favourite H.p. Lovecraft stories. Lots of sludgy goodness on this one. The Eye of Ra is another banger, and Iskander Dehul Kanun closes the album really well. And yeah, this is a really, really good album again. Like I said at the start, the difference between the top tier and the bottom tier for this band, it's not as much as it would be for a lot of other bands. So I'm really nitpicking for some of these sort of rankings on here. This one for me is going to go in B tier. But I really did enjoy it. And George Callias is just ferocious on the drums. He's insane. Did I just mess that up? Okay, now we get to July 3rd, 2012 with the release of At the Gates of Sethu. Again, the same lineup. With Dallas taking care of bass duties again. This is one of those ones, I ought to speed things up a bit, this has been going on quite a while. This album is the one that most people have the biggest issue with and the ones that most people put at the bottom of the thing. I want it to be different, but I don't think I can be. One of the main criticisms I heard from Ithyphallic onwards, a lot of the songs start to blur into one another. And unfortunately that does happen on this. Enduring the Eternal Molestation of Flame sets things off decently enough. Some of the standout tracks for me would be The Friend Who Comes to Steal the Magic of the Fiends Who Come, not The Friend Who Comes to Steal Magic, that's a person you want to get out of your life. The Fiends Who Come to Steal the Magic of the Deceased. The Inevitable, dogs barking out there. The Inevitable Degradation of Flesh. And then things get a little samey for the rest of the album. Yeah, quite often I've noticed with the later albums, they start out with like 2-3 songs which are real just, slamming, and then the rest of it kind of fades into the rest of it, I'm afraid. So yeah, I'm not going to be much different to anybody else. This one goes in Denialed. Not a bad album though, it's still got a lot of enjoyable moments on it. A grossly consistent band, they really are. Next up we have What Should Not Be Unearthed, August 28th in 2015. This would be the last album to feature Dallas who would end up leaving the band in 2017. Going into this one again, we have Call to Destruction is a total banger. They always know how to start the albums, that's for sure. This is another one where the songs do kind of blur into one another. Nothing bad on here, but nothing that really stands out from the pack. The title track's pretty cool, and the name of Amun and Evil Cast Out Evil were particular standouts to me. I enjoyed those a lot. But a lot of this one again kind of feels dialed in. I did enjoy this a bit more than At the Gates of Sethu. I saw in interviews with Carl promoting the next album that we're going to be talking about, and one thing that he was saying that was really stood out to him was how there was much less arguing going on during the writing process. So I'm guessing that there was a lot of issues between Carl and Dallas in terms of getting along with the writings, and maybe that had something to do with why the albums were sort of blurring into one another. But this one for me, this goes in the Catacombs of Cool, a little bit better than At the Gates of Sethu, but bottom of C tier. But again, still some really great stuff. And that brings us up to Vile Nilotic Rites, first album without Dallas. So now we have Carl Sanders on guitar and vocals, of course, the mastermind behind everything. George Callias, who is just incredible. And we have Brad Paris on bass and Brian Kingsland on guitar and vocals. There is a notable absence in regards to Dallas's vocals. You do notice the difference in the vocals. It is a little, I wouldn't say jarring, you do kind of get used to it fairly quickly, but you know, Dallas was a big part of the band for a long time, so you do notice his absence. That being said, you also notice a considerable step up in energy. It really feels like there's a renewed vigour with the band in this. So let's go through this. Long Shadows of Dread, very enjoyable. Apocalyptic feel, especially the bell chimes towards the end of the song. We get quite a few bell chimes through this album. The Oxford Handbook of Savage Genocidal Warfare, fantastic song title. Great song as well to go with it. Some very Corpse Grinder type screams at the tail end of this. The title track, Vile Nilotic Rites, they seem to always do a great job with the title tracks. This one's no more exception, more mid-paced in terms of tempo, and all they're heavier for it. Another great use of bells chiming. So you know, a bell being chimed is always good in a metal song. Seven Horns War, epic track with some real orchestral parts to get things going before going into some frenzied riffing. That Which Is Forbidden has a very nice slow stomping vibe before erupting into all-out fury. I love the use of chants in the intro that conjure up images of an army sort of marching into war. Snake Pit Mating Frenzy, 2 minutes 48, just to the point, fantastic. Revel in their suffering, some nice mid-paced stompage with some choral accompaniment peppered throughout the music there. Thus Saith the Parasites of the Mind, another interlude piece. Conjures up the ancient streets of Egypt. Where is the wrathful sky? Flat out ferocious. Imperishable Stars Are Sickened. Should have been the closer to the album, something I've heard a few people talking about. And We Are Cursed was decent enough, but it kind of felt like it was a bit tacked on at the end of it. But there was an almost cinematic feel to this album. It ebbs and flows a lot more than some of the previous album. It really feels like there's a renewed energy and vigour in the band, and yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. So this for me is going to go in B tier. Do I put it ahead of Those Whom the Gods Detest? I think I would, actually. I'm going to put this at the top of B tier. Yeah, that's all I'm going to be doing for today. The new album, The Underworld Awaits Us All, I am going to be reviewing that, and I will put that in the ranking as well. I have had a chance to listen to it, but I want to listen to it a few more times before I actually do that. You know what it's like, these albums I've sat with for years, and you really do just get your own opinions of them. But this is a fantastic discography. I enjoy, there are no bad albums. There are no bad albums in the Nile discography whatsoever. Tremendously enjoyable, and it was great listening to all of this and preparing for this album ranking. So yes, keep an eye out for my review of the new album. It'll be out in a day or two, depending on when you're watching this. It might already be out, and I'll let you know where that sits for me there as well. I think I've gone on more than enough. Thank you to everybody who's watched the video to this point, certainly. To all my returning subscribers, thanks very much for subscribing. I'm looking forward to really going full bore with this channel again and just talking about music. It's so much fun, and I've got a lot more reviews coming up from now on, so I am going on. Subscribe if you haven't already, and like and all the rest of it. So, Nile, they're good. It's one of those awkward bits where I never know how to finish a video. See ya. I'm stopping recording now. That's it.